you ever been discriminated because of your age? So not only do we talk about women in finance and property and construction on this show, but actually some women not only struggle in the industry because of their gender, but actually their age is sometimes could be a barrier. Welcome back to another episode of The Money Honey with me, your host, Rosalia Lazara-Tilley, the founder and CEO of Manuka Media, #1 best-selling author on Amazon as well. That's never going to get bored of me saying that. And also keynote speaker and school ambassador. And I'm also a brand ambassador for Female Invest. So that is actually something else to mention at this point, that I am such a big advocate for the females in this industry, for empowering women, that I've been nominated as a brand ambassador by Female Invest, who is a global company in over 100 countries, helping women with financial education. So being an ambassador essentially means that I sometimes write for them. So my latest article that you are able to read on their website is about how women can get on the property ladder. I've done a module and a course, video training course for all the members of their program about mortgages. So they asked me to do a show and a recorded video course about understanding mortgages, the different types of mortgages, and how you can buy your first property. So that's what the show's all about. And what I bring to you on a weekly basis is talent and women in this industry who excel in their careers of whatever level they are at. Maybe some of them are entrants, maybe some of them are in leadership positions. But this show has been created to change the narrative. And if we want more women in finance to be seen, then we have to be seen. Do you get it? Like, you actually have to show up and be the face of the women in this show. So, of course, I've said this before, the women who come on this show are bravely stepping outside of their comfort zone to speak up and to show themselves. So please, kindness only is allowed on this show. We want the utmost respect for the women who are showing up and speaking on here, because it is brave. They're not only representing themselves, but they're actually representing you, and they're showing up for you because they want to bring more knowledge, power, motivation to the listeners. So I cannot wait to introduce you to a phenomenal money honey that I have on the show today. And the reason I started this show about age, right? Because age is a very, very, very sensitive topic. Okay, so please just understand that we're coming from a good place. We're only sharing our experience. This money honey will only be sharing her perspective of what age means to her. So obviously, please just welcome that with an open heart. But the reason I invited this particular money honey is not only do we have amazing night outs at industry events. Okay, so she's definitely here because she's a good friend of mine offline anyway. But I'm really impressed by what she's achieved within just 10 years of being in this industry. And 10 years sounds like a lot, but actually she started in financial services at 18 years of age. And this year marks her 10 years in the industry. And she has gone from, as she puts it, working from the bottom of the ladder right the way through to operations director. If you haven't guessed it already, I'm talking about Rebecca Lewis, the operations director for Affinity Group. And she brings a wealth of knowledge, strategic vision, and she has a proven track record of success to the organization. She is such a strong believer that any career, whatever age you are, can absolutely thrive. And she wants to represent the young females of this industry and what is actually possible if you just remove that age barrier and you own it and you rock it like a true money honey. So, Rebecca, where are you at?
Hello, thank you so much for having me. It's great to be here.
Oh, it's my pleasure to have you here because I know what it was like to start out quite young in the industry, and I wasn't as young as 18. So please, before we dive into that, just give us a quick intro into who you are and what you do.
Amazing, thank you so much. So yeah, my name is Rebecca Lewis. I am the operations director for Affinity Group. Obviously, as Rosalia's alluded to, it didn't start that way. It definitely didn't start that way. So I have been again in the industry for 10 years this year. I wouldn't say that it was a career that I chose. I don't think everybody I've ever spoken to about financial services is you just somehow fall into it. Like it crosses your path and you somehow fall into it. So I don't know why that is, but it's the best thing that ever happened to me. I love it every day. But yeah, it's definitely been a journey. It's definitely been a journey because I don't think anyone particularly leaves school and goes, I really want to be in financial services. But again, that's probably an education piece, right? Because I think if people knew what the industry could do for you and what it can deliver, I think a lot more people would have an interest in wanting to come into it from sort of school level. I know I certainly would have done. I was fortunate enough to find it, right? But I guess not everybody is that fortunate. So yeah, it's been a journey. It's definitely been a journey. Like I fell into it and I sort of, over the last 10 years, hasn't been without barriers. Like there's been hurdles, there's been things, and sometimes you do question, goodness, is it the right thing for me? Am I on the right path? Like, I think that's probably one thing where I would say my age hasn't held me back, but you certainly have a lot more questions. I think around
questions.
Well, questions just in like, you come across these hurdles and you're like, is this the right thing for me? Am I doing the right thing? Am I on the right path? I think generally your 20s are a confusing time anyway, like just as a person, not necessarily in your career, but there's so much pressure around your 20s. And I think there's a lot of pressure, society pressure to do certain things and have reached certain milestones. So I think you have all that going on personally. And then you're at the point of like, oh goodness, now I've got a career to like try and think about as well. So it's confusing time in general, I think personally. I've found for myself anyway.
Oh, mate, I totally get that because I started out in financial services when I was 25. So today that would actually be considered quite mature, that's quite good. Like that's a good age. But at the time, when you're 25 and everyone around you is 56, you're like,
yeah,
okay, am I actually being taken seriously? Like, are you actually seeing me for what I am? And I did think that people were like using my age as like they've just hired a young female BDM and, that's her job. And I was like, is that the value you guys see? Like that's where do you ever get that? Have you been through that before?
Do you know what? I think I'm quite lucky actually because, obviously I've only ever been at Affinity. So obviously my career started there and I'm still there. And I think I'm fortunate in the sense that I've always been, it's being a woman of my age has never been a barrier there. But I can certainly see that it would be across the industry in other firms. I think I've just been super fortunate in that I've never really had that. I think you do get, I would say mine's probably more come from external. So obviously
that's what I mean. Yeah.
That sort of safe space and Affinity. But yeah, I have heard comments in the past, oh my goodness, you're so young. And you take it and you think, yeah, but my age doesn't define me, because if you didn't know how old I was, you take me for the quality of my work. And I feel as if that's where we really need to try and be better, because the industry is evolving and is moving, I think, in a really positive way. Certainly there's so many more women in finance now that we're really on the right trajectory of where we're going. But there is still this extremely old-fashioned sort of view of, well, you're only that old. And you think, but you can look at it as a negative and go, you're only that old. Or you can go, well, actually, what sort of fresh ideas is someone of 28 years old going to bring to the table? And I think we're in a world now that's very different. So obviously, people could look and go, well, you're only 28. But I'd go, well, but I've probably got a lot more social media experience on knowing how, the social media side of the world works. Like it's 6 of one, half dozen of another, really, isn't it? But it's certainly, I've definitely had it in the past when people have been like, oh goodness, you're only 28. And that's a lot of responsibility that you carry. And I have said to people before, but have you ever questioned my ability to do it? Are you basing this purely on the fact you now know how old I am? Or are you basing it on the work and what you've seen in me in a professional capacity? And that often changes the dynamic.
Absolutely. Yeah. What a question. And that's the thing is, if you were just writing emails and speaking on the phone and doing all that kind of stuff and people didn't see your age, they would just take the quality of your work on face value. But then as soon as they meet you, perhaps at events and things like that, then that's where you actually just show your age, just because obviously, age shows up in lots of different ways, right? Like if you look young, you look young. And that's not that doesn't, like you say, it doesn't stop you from doing amazing work. I mean, I sometimes look at some of the most famous celebrities and successful people like Stephen Bartlett. I'm like, how did you at 23 just know what to, like, how could you possibly have known that? And, you know, that I know that's like 1 in a million people that kind of have that kind of success, but it just goes to show age is genuinely just a number. But of course, in a space that we're in, because there are so many older people, obviously, because this industry, in fact, it's not something I'm saying, it's not my opinion, that is often in the press and in the media, I've often seen that financial services is addressed as an aging industry, and there's actually a risk of succession planning, or how do we even for the clients, you know, how do we pass down the knowledge, the wealth, you know, intergenerational wealth, not only for the clients but also for brokers. There's loads of brokers that I used to go and see, and I used to go and sit in their house and like talk to them about like the lender product that I was you know, representing at the time. And I was like, oh, you've got children. Oh, that's nice. You know, are they going to take on the business? They're like, oh, no, my son's becoming a doctor. My wife is this, or my son. And I'm like, oh, interesting. So actually,
where does it go?
Down the business, the clients, that's also a problem. So how do you feel like, what could we do there? Like, what would you say to businesses who haven't embraced younger, the next generation? What could they be doing? What top tips would you share with brokerages, lenders who are listening?
I think we found, certainly in our business, like we have a lot of staff members that are in that age bracket, sort of 20s. And honestly, I think it's one of the best things we've ever done, because one thing that you can't take away from somebody that is young is that passion and that drive and that determination. Certainly if they feel they're in an environment where they can flourish and they can grow, the determination of somebody that's in their early 20s is unbelievable. Like, if you could almost bottle that and give it out, it would be amazing. Because if everybody was that determined, obviously naturally that sort of dips over time, because you're in something for such a long time. The excitement goes a little bit, but I think that their ability to want to learn, to want to grow, to want, they're just like sponges. They just want to know everything. And I think we've certainly found, like, our guys in their 20s, they're relentless. Like, they just want to do the best they possibly can, because obviously for them it's the start of their career and they're shaping their future and the world that they're creating for themselves. And I feel like it's a really pivotal point of their lives, but what they can bring for you just by having that sort of safe space to be able to, you know, yeah, they're young, they're going to make mistakes, but that's okay, because you make mistakes and you learn from them and you get better. So having that safe space to be able to, you know, really ply their trade and grow within a firm, I think what you put in, you get back tenfold. Absolutely.
Nice. So how does Affinity do it then? Like, what have you put in place to attract a younger demographic? How do you build a culture in a business that attracts young people to want to be part of it? Because obviously a lot of people outside of FS looking in, they might not come across Affinity. They might see a totally different perspective of financial services. So what have you guys done specifically to build that culture?
I think we've always been a strong believer, like, our people are our biggest asset. So, you know, the business is nothing without the people in it. And, you know, we're so fortunate that the people in it are really driven and passionate about making the client's journey as good as it could possibly be. And I feel like that at Affinity, we're very open book. So we want to know how people feel, and we want to know if there's something wrong, if they're not happy with something, they feel like they could be more supported. But we're also very open to the fact that we want people to be able to progress within their careers. So just because somebody comes in at entry level doesn't mean they'll be staying at entry level forever. Like, if they want that and that's all they ever want to do, that's totally fine. But we always like to keep that channel of communication open, because I think personally you end up losing your best people if there's no route of progression for them, because everybody's got their path they want to go on in life, and you either embrace it and go, yeah, do you know what, you're great, and we'll help you on your progression and we'll find your next level of your career, or they end up leaving. So it's just about creating that super safe culture for them to feel like they've always got an ear. They can always come to me and talk to me if they've got a problem, or they want to try this, or they want to try something new. I think it's just about transparency and being able to communicate.
Certainly, I do agree that is definitely an element, but I think it goes beyond that. There's definitely something else that you guys must be doing. Like, do you have like technology, you know, slicker systems? Do you embrace AI? Do you embrace, you know, paperless? Like, yeah, I've definitely worked with companies that are really emotive and really emotional, and really like open door policy, but actually they've got stacks of files and it's really like, okay, and you're like, oh my gosh, I can't deal with this. And so there must be another element there.
Yeah, so we do embrace a lot of technology. Don't get me wrong, it's taken time. Like in the 10 years, I think technology and financial services is really scary, because I know when we first started sort of tiptoeing into it, we were like, oh goodness, like this feels scary, because 6 years ago we were that firm that had, when I first started at Affinity, we had case files for each client, and you'd handwrite the notes. Like there was no way. It used to take hours to handwrite these notes and then put the file back in the drawer. So we've obviously systems and process. We're all technology now. We don't have any paper-based systems at all. It's all held on technology. We do embrace not so much AI, but we have like a back-end system that does like a nurture journey for our clients in the background. So a lot of the manual work that we had prior is not manual anymore. So therefore, it is just on a computer. Everything is in one place.
I love that.
We wouldn't be able to, the numbers that we do with now, it would be impossible to handwrite files. We'd be there all day.
Absolutely. Yeah, I remember so I've been in the industry as well, Rebecca, for about 10 years now, nearly about 8. So 8 years ago, when I first started working as a packager, I used to be out on the road a lot, and gosh, that has changed. My life is completely I feel younger. I literally feel 5-6 years younger than in comparison to when I was 25, because when I was 25, I was literally on the road like for 13-hour days. I wasn't eating properly. And I thought I was, right? But when you like stop the cycle, when you like stop doing something, like I could never go back to that. So that was really, really hard. But obviously everything that I do now is so digital. I mean, like this podcast, or recording it online. I've built loads of relationships online. I even found a husband online. I mean, that's how I met him online. As you know, I found my husband on Tinder, and 7 years later, here we are. So in the past decade, my life has changed because of digital platforms and, in so many ways. But I remember I used to be on the road for like 13 hours, and I used to go and see maybe 5 to 7 brokers a day, and I'd come home with like 10 leads, right? But before I'd make it home, I'd take a screenshot, like I'd take a picture of this form. So I'd be in the office or in that broker's office, I'd write down the inquiry, and then I'd take a picture of it and send it to my boss. So whilst I guess that was also a nice thing, like when you ring the bell in sales and stuff. I was like sending him pictures all day long of like leads, but then he would have to print out that form, scan it into the I was like, oh my God.
It's crazy. But I think as well, like we've got to embrace it. Like, as I say, even us, when it first came about, we're not sure this is, because it's been around so long. Obviously financial services very stuck in its ways of like, well, no, that's the right way, because and obviously we do a really serious job. Like the job we do is really serious. We're dealing with serious stuff. But as soon as you start embracing it, it's like the floodgates open and you're like, how did we ever not do this? Like, it's crazy. We're just working smarter. It's just working smarter all round, and that makes everyone's lives easier, and that's a win-win, right? You can't really go wrong there.
Exactly. Even in the content and the marketing world and the creative world, there's a lot of scaremongering about us losing our jobs because of AI. And I'm like, do you know how to use AI? Like, as a broker, sometimes I'm like, would you like to learn all the systems that are available? You're going back to being an admin. You're just being a digital admin, because you still have to manage those platforms. So actually, our team has totally embraced AI. We're like creating content with AI, but we have that human touch, and that's exactly what brokers are all about, aren't they? Brokers are embracing technology, but you're never going to be replaced if you actually adopt it. You will be replaced if you don't adopt it. And that's exactly what Affinity have done. Hence, you guys are constantly growing and growing and growing. So I love it. I love to see the success.
Yeah, 100%.
Now, if a 20-year-old is listening, right, and they're thinking, gosh, I wouldn't even know where to begin in financial services, what place is there for a 20-year-old? Like, what kind of jobs are available in financial services? What career paths can people take?
So I think, just talking from my own experience, I think a really solid place to start in financial services generally is a sort of administration or case management role, because I think if you start there, you build a really strong foundation. You build a really strong foundation around potentially having a career, and that could be an administrator for a mortgage broker or for a lender. Like, there's so many sort of opportunities at that entry level. But I think what it does is give you a really good level of knowledge and a really strong foundation to then be able to, once you have a little bit of an idea about the industry from inside the industry as opposed to outside of it, you can then figure out which bit you like the most. Is it in finance? Is it in broking? Or do you come back for a lender and be an underwriter? Like, but you need that. You need your own experiences and your own foundation to know which way you want to go with that, I think.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, there's just so much diversity in financial services. You know, you could have studied economics at uni, and you can become or an accountant. You can become you could do like analytics, right? And you can do trend spotting and market analysis, and you can actually create your own products, right? You can actually be part of the product team and build a product from scratch based on like the numbers. Or you could come in totally on the techie side and actually start building platforms and CRM systems, or, you know, integrate AI or that. There literally is so much. You know, the industry of financial services is just like any other industry. It needs humans, it needs tech, it needs AI, it needs everything. So yeah, there's so much opportunity for.
I think you've almost just got to throw yourself in and not be afraid. Like, be unapologetic in the route you're taking, and not be afraid to sort of take a leap and take a chance. Because I think sometimes we hold ourselves back because you tell yourself a story of, you know, I'm not qualified for that, or I can't do that. But just give it a try. Why not? Like, what's the worst that's going to happen? You might not get the job, or you might not get a call back, but just keep trying. And you'll find the right thing. You'll fall into the right thing always. But you've just got to be unapologetic in your approach to that, and not get sort of disheartened, or because the right thing will find you. It always does, in my belief.
Yes, yeah. And, you know, I'd also like to use mine if it helps anybody and gives anyone any motivation, that, you know, in my scenario, I wasn't qualified to be a financial advisor. I'm not a financial advisor. I didn't study to be in this industry. I didn't have any qualifications to be in this industry. I had a completely different career path.
Yeah.
And I had a completely different degree unrelated to finance, but they let me in. You know, I was embraced, I was brought in, because if you've got the people skills, if you've got transferable skills, as they call them, you can totally belong in this industry. But just when I thought my career was going really, really well, I lost my job, and it was in the middle of a pandemic, and I was really scared for the future of my life, because I was like, I've just spent nearly 10 years in this industry, and all of a sudden I'm out. Like, what am I supposed to do with my life? And I started my own business from scratch, still serving the broker community. But and I feel like now I'm stronger than ever before. Like, now I've been embraced since I've found my own voice, my own place, my own kind of zone of genius. I feel more integrated in this industry than I ever have been before. So that's just how versatile the industry is.
It's funny how things work out. And as you say, I didn't have any qualifications to be in this industry either. Like, I did my A-levels and I was on a totally separate path. I thought I was going over there. But as you say, you don't have to be qualified. You've just got to take the leap of, like, let's give it a go. You don't know what's going to happen. And as you say, life has a way of pivoting, I think. So, like you just said, you lost your job and you thought, oh God, this is so scary. But actually, it was probably the best thing that ever happened to you, because now you're like, you would have never found your path had those events not occurred. So I think you've just got to trust the process and just go for it. That's my opinion.
Absolutely. Yeah, I love that. Thanks, Rebecca. So if people want to connect with, well, firstly, I actually would like to ask, are you guys hiring at Affinity at all? You know, are you looking to, do you have any live roles?
I think for us at Affinity, like, I'd always urge people to get in touch, because we may not necessarily be hiring, but we are a big believer that if the right person were to come along and we thought they'd be a good fit for the team, we have in the past sort of found a place for them to be. So I would always urge people, like brokers, case managers, or anyone that maybe isn't already in the industry that just wants to get a bit more information. Like, I'm always open, even if people aren't coming to me to try and get a job. I'm always open to give any sort of advice, or if I can help anyone or just point them in the right direction, I'm always more than happy to do that.
Love that. Yeah, so there you are, guys. If you are looking for a innovative and really open culture, open policy, very tech savvy brokerage in whatever capacity you're in, just have a chat with Rebecca. Maybe just reach out. How can people reach out, Rebecca? What's the best way to connect with you?
It's probably LinkedIn, to be honest with you. That's probably the best way. or my email address, I can provide you with that as well.
Yeah. So in the show notes, we'll get a link in the show notes for Rebecca's LinkedIn, but her name is Rebecca Lewis for anyone just listening in right now and just wants to jump on LinkedIn and connect. And Rebecca, any closing comments before we wrap up the show that you want listeners to know about you? Or is there a mantra? Like, do you live by a certain philosophy or a...
I think for me, it's just, I just think be unapologetic in your path and where you're going. Like you're gonna get setbacks, you're gonna be knocked back, but that doesn't define you as a person. And you've just got to be true to yourself and keep going. Like the right thing will find you, and you always do well. But you've just got to believe in yourself. Like that is the number one thing. You've got to believe in yourself.
Absolutely. Even when things are tough, like that's where the challenge is in believing yourself. Like that's real. The test. It's easy to be positive when things are going well, but the real test is when things aren't going the way you hope them to go. How do you find and dig deep that belief within yourself?
And I think that's the thing, because I think like we've all been there. Like I sit here and go, oh, believe in yourself. Like there have been multiple times when I've gone, oh goodness, I'm not sure, I can't do this, or I'm not sure this is right. But you do find a way of sort of pulling yourself out of that. And it's normal to have those thoughts as well. Like it's not all positivity and great and everything's going well, because that's not life, right? But it's about how you deal with those moments and how then you move forward for them, in my opinion.
Love that. Love it. So I turn to you, listeners. If you're tuning in via YouTube or Spotify or Apple Tunes, like wherever you are, however you're tuning in, has age been a barrier to, even if it's a different, completely end of the spectrum? Maybe you're actually finding that you're in a different age category now, in a different bracket, and you're trying to still find yourself, because we're always evolving. How you feel in your 20s is totally different how you feel in your 30s, your 40s, your 50s. And actually, we're constantly reinventing ourselves. Is that something for you? You know, have you been trying? Have you just entered a new age bracket and you're actually feeling totally different? Maybe you're feeling younger, more vibrant, more energetic. You've like refound your passion, or actually maybe you've lost yourself a little bit. Please talk to us. Come and share your story with us. And if you don't want to share it publicly, that's okay, right? If you don't want to share and be the voice and the face of that story, please share it with me. I can share it anonymously. I can maybe make a little episode myself about that and try and help you that way. But of course, we always like you to be the speaker. We want you to actually show your face, show your voice, just like Rebecca did. Rebecca, was that scary?
No, I think it's been lovely, actually. Do you know what? It's just a nice conversation. You can't go wrong.
Exactly. As you have no idea, just by having this tiny little conversation, the massive impact that makes. And that's what we call positive pollination at Manuka Media. We want you to pay that forward. And Rebecca, I know you'll be getting a lot of DMs from people saying, wow, I love that show. Because all my money honeys that have been on the show have messaged me saying, oh my goodness, so many people have connected and reached out saying that show helped them. So it's about just helping that one person. Maybe it's your daughter, your cousin, your colleague, your manager, that one person that needs to listen to this show that could actually change their mindset forever. And that's the power of speaking up on these shows. So thank you again, Rebecca, for being such a phenomenal money honey. And I'll see everybody else on the next episode.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you.